Okay, so here we are again in the exercise file. So I've added a third tab now. You'll see this is a view with a red background. So this is a subclass of UI view controller. And you can see that I've added simply a white UI view, plain old UI view. And I've given it, so this is using auto layout. You don't have to use auto layout. You can use frames and bounds if you want. But I've used auto layout, so I've just given this a width and a height. And what I have is so I've centered it this way here in the view. And I have added a bottom constraint. And what I did was I added an outlet to this constraint. So I put the outlet in my implementation file. And so now what I can do is this outlet actually has a constant value on it. So if I change that constant value, I can move this view up and down. And what I'm doing is I'm using NS Notification Center, and I'm adding myself as an observer to watch for the keyboard notifications. So if you look closely here, you'll see that I've actually added a UI text field right in this here. So as soon as I tap in that, the keyboard is going to come up. And if I were not to move this view out of the way, obviously the keyboard would simply cover this view. And that's not what we want. We want to float this view above the keyboard and maintain this space here above the keyboard. The other thing I've done is I've added tap gesture just to the red view so that when I tap on it, I can dismiss the keyboard. So you need a reference to the UI text field, and you have to call resign first responder to dismiss the keyboard. So I'm going to tap the keyboard, tap the text field, and you can see that the view actually pops up above and maintains that space here that I was saying. And I'm not using any special animations. This is just built into UIKit, so there's nothing fancy. So now if I tap the gesture recognizer on this view, I'm going to speak to the outlet of this UI text field here and call resign first responder on it. And when I do that, you see that the view adjusts accordingly. Okay, I thought I would add a few things to the last video just so that to avoid having to kind of write everything out. So I'll just let you recreate this, but you can see that I've highlighted the bottom constraint here, and actually what I did was I control dragged to create this outlet right here that I've called bottom constraint. And you can see here I have a reference to the text field. I also create the old constant, so because when I adjust this constant on this constraint, I need to know what the original constant was so that I can set it back. And you can see in view did load, I set that old constant right here, and it's actually a read only, which is what you would expect since that value is never going to change. And I access it using the underscore, so I'm just talking to the backing store there. So you can see here that I add myself as an observer using this NS Notification Center default center. And what I did was I got this system key from the system. So it's UI keyboard did change frame notification. So actually, if you look in the documentation under UI window, you'll see that there are these notifications here, which are window and keyboard notifications. So that's where I got that from. So this, you can see that by the word here, UI keyboard will change frame notification. So it's about to change the frame. So that's the information you need. So you're just getting notified before the frame of the keyboard changes. So what I did was I added a selector here, keyboard did change, and it takes a parameter. You can see that it has an NS notification parameter, and that has a user info key. And I've just dumped the values here to the console so you can inspect them. And when you inspect them, you'll see key value pairs. So I'll just pull up my console here, and you'll see that you get these key value pairs, and you can inspect these key value pairs. And what I did was I inspected them between the keyboard coming up and the keyboard coming down. And if you look at these values, you can see that the what you want is the keyboard, let's see, you want frame, you want this one here, you want the UI keyboard frame end user info. Okay, so that's where the keyboard is going to end. And if you inspect these two values, you'll see that the width and height of the keyboard are always the same, so they're identical, and the X value is always the same as you would expect, so it's always in the 0x position. But the Y position is not the same. So this is where the action is. So you can see here the keyboard is about to come up, and it means that the top of the keyboard is at the Y coordinate 465. And here it is at the Y coordinate 736. So this value would be different depending on the actual height of self.view. So 736 is, I'm running in a 7 plus simulator here, so that would be the non-retina point values of the screen height. So if I want to tell whether or not the keyboard is about to come up, I could check to see if the Y value here is the same as the keyboard height, and then I know that the keyboard is about to leave, and otherwise I know the keyboard is about to come up. So to get the height, how much I need to move that view, what I do is I take this value, I take the height of self.view and just subtract whatever this Y value is, which is the system telling me where the keyboard will end up in terms of its Y value. So it's going to be less than the height, right? Because the Y coordinate starts at 0 at the top and increases down toward the bottom. So we'll see here that you can see that what I do is I get the value of self.view, and I get the there's one little trick here is that this notification center, the user info key that you get, which is a dictionary key, so you use that special key, and actually what it does is it gets you an NS value, and so you need to convert that NS value to a CG-rect, and you just call this CG-rect value on it. Okay, so I think that you should have enough there to complete the exercise.